Hi, everybody. My name is Rafa Lombardino, and this is Translation Confessional. What is the most fundamental tool translators have? Yes, our language. And we must be the grammar and spelling police, not only when we're working on a project, but also when we're communicating with clients or interacting with peers online. We must use our language as well at all times. With that in mind, one tool I've been using for a while now, and I do use it constantly, is Grammarly. I've activated it on my email so I don't make any mistakes when sending a message to a client. I also have it available to me in Google Drive, so I can use it when reviewing my students' translations into English or when I'm writing my own articles and brainstorming podcast episodes. And because I do translate into English very often, the premium version helps me keep my last draft sharp and ready for delivery. If you'd like to try out the world's best automated proofreader, visit bit.ly/tc-grammar. It's easy to remember. TC stands for Translation Confessional, followed by grammar. Once again, you can visit Grammarly at bit.ly/tc-grammar. Keep your English sharp. Translation method. I was wondering, have you ever heard of the so-called translation method? I used to see and hear that expression all the time when I started studying translation theory. And I must say, it does look very good on paper. There are different variations of it, depending on which theory book you're reading. But it goes something like this. Number 1, read the entire source document. Number 2, highlight all the words you don't know. Number 3, create a glossary. Number 4, work on your draft translation. Number 5, walk away from the project. Number 6, come back and review your work. Number 7, reread your work as if it were written in the target language. Number 8, run a spell and grammar check. Number 9, have a native speaker copy edit your work. Number 10, deliver your final translation. I say that it looks good on paper because it covers all practical aspects of the translation process, from reading and understanding the original, to researching terminology, and editing your work, or working with a colleague who can copy edit your translation. However, this is a very academic approach to translations, and it doesn't quite reflect what we do in real life, nor does it address the sense of urgency we experience in our daily routine. And it prevents newcomers from learning how to cope with it and manage their time and resources accordingly. Most people who swear by this method fail to realize that freelance translators may work on different projects at the same time, assist multiple clients, perform different tasks, and usually have tight deadlines. My students are among those people, especially those who are beginners, and are soaking up all the information they have available on translation studies, but haven't started working as translators yet. I mean, the translation method works wonderfully if you're doing homework, but it will fall apart once you're working in the real world. That's why it's such a wake-up call when my students go through the 10 weeks of our Tools and Technology in Translation class, because they see that translation theory isn't everything. They get an overview of what it means to be a translator, especially when we work for ourselves, and have to find a balance amid a sometimes hectic routine. Using our language skills to assist clients is only one part of the job. We must also run our own business if we want to make ours a sustainable activity that pays the bills and allows us to have a comfortable life. And what else goes into running a business? Customer service, client management, marketing, project management, invoicing, collecting payment. There are so many tasks for us to perform as part of our business of one that following the translation method to a T would cut into the time required to perform all these other tasks. If you're like most translators, you'd rather spend your time translating than digging through your inbox in different Excel files. But too many translators spend hours every week manually managing their jobs and clients. Invoicing, financial tracking, and keeping track of all your jobs doesn't need to be so time-consuming. In fact, you can do it easily from one easy-to-manage platform made by and for translators. You can create and send quotes, manage your rates and services for each client, manage projects, and send invoices all from one place. It automatically creates financial reports for you, so you always know the health of your business. Ready to stop wasting time on admin and start spending more time translating? Try LSP.expert for free for 30 days. Just type LSP.expert into your preferred browser and use the code HAFA for 15% off a new yearly subscription. Once again, the code is RAFA. Take control of your translation business admin today. I have an anecdote that illustrates this issue perfectly, and it involves a professor of translation studies and a very green translation student. The professor was adamant about this fail-safe approach, this ritual that should be followed during every single translation project. The student had questions about a real-life project. The professor didn't work as a translator day in and day out, despite being amazing at translation theory and grammar rules. So they couldn't answer those real-life questions. Here's what happened. The student had received a 100-page report from a potential client and showed it to the professor to get some advice. "How long do you think it would take me, and how much should I charge?" the translation student asked. The professor simply replied, "Oh, it would take me forever to work on these 100 pages, and it would cost the client a fortune." The student looked lost and desperate. That could be their first translation assignment, hopefully one of many. But how could the student start working as a professional translator without knowing the basics? When the translation would be ready, and how much a client should pay for the service? I wasn't a teacher back then yet, but I had been a translator for a few years already, working exclusively with translation projects Monday through Friday as my day job. I sat down with the translation student and asked, "Do you happen to have a Word document with this report so you can check the word count?" They didn't have it. The client had hand-delivered those 100 printed pages. Okay, I took a deep breath. In that case, let's do this. Grab a typical page and count how many lines of text that page has. Then count how many words a typical line has on that page. Do the math to get the average word count per page, then multiply it by the total number of pages to get an approximate number of words that need to be translated. The translation student looked at me as if it had been the most revolutionary thing they had ever heard. Once they got an approximate word count, I asked them what their average output was. How many words, give or take, can you translate in an hour of work? Once again, I saw that look, lost and desperate. All right, go with an average 200 words per hour, then start keeping track of your time so you can adjust your average output as you get more hands-on experience. Well, divide the total word count by 200, and you get how many hours approximately it would take you to work on it. I followed up with some more questions and instructions, such as, did the client tell you when they need the translation back? Do you have a comfortable deadline, or are you pressed for time? Will you work part-time, full-time, or overtime on this translation? How much would you realistically like to make per hour of work? Divide your hourly rate by 200 until you can adjust your average output. Send a quote to the client and wait for their confirmation so you can get it started. With that general overview, the translation student was able to feel a little less lost and negotiate better with the client. Had the student followed the translation method, they would need to add the time it would take them to read those 100 pages and research all the terminology beforehand, besides finding out how much a copy editor would charge for their work. So yes, it would end up costing the client a fortune, and it would take forever for the project to be completed. Send me an email at rlombardino@wordawareness.com or leave a voice message on my Anchor page. If I get enough feedback and voice messages, I can go back to the subject and post a special podcast episode with everyone's opinion on this very same theme. By the way, my Anchor page is anchor.fm/translation-confessional. I look forward to hearing from you. Stay tuned for weekly episodes and subscribe to Translation Confessional through your favorite podcast app.